Ew.
Welcome into the Chat It Up podcast here on the Brewer Media Group Podcast Network in association with ESPN Chattanooga. Glad you're listening wherever you may be listening. It's just the two of us.
Beautiful.
You and I. Joining us tonight on the podcast as the co-host of the show, it's the man who is one of the founding members of the Big Boy Running Club. He's wearing in those New Balances, looking like the homeowner that he is now.
Mm-hmm.
Getting little grass stains on him.
Yep.
Looking good. Painting all crazy. Got that all squared away.
Forearms are sore today.
They're very, very sore. Joining us now is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Chase Green.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, not ready to light the fires tonight.
I did not.
You couldn't have grabbed a Coke or something like that?
Fridge. Yeah, we're trying to get
it's Coach's first time, and you're embarrassing me already.
I'm sorry, Coach. I'm sorry to let you down. That's a public school lifestyle right there.
Our special guest today is a man who is one of the winningest, if not the winningest head coach in South Carolina high school football history. In his time in South Carolina, he's got 190 some odd wins, only 20 losses, has won 12 state championships in the state of California, Carolina, South Carolina. He was a former assistant coach on the South Carolina football team, as well as a former quarterback at SC. Well, joining us is the one, the only, the newest head coach of the Baylor Red Raiders, Mr. Erik Kimrey. What's up, Coach?
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm glad that you were able to be here. We had a couple of little things that went on pre-show, but we're here. We got it. Practice ran a little long for you. And first and foremost, let's just start with this. How are the boys doing? I know you practice ran a little bit long, and we got a chance to meet, and I saw you out there at the Jamboree this past weekend. So tell us a little bit about how the boys are looking and how everything's kind of playing out so far here in your first year.
Oh, I'd say they're struggling well.
Struggling well.
Yeah, that's one of our little mottos in Baylor. But they're a great group of guys, and they're smart kids, very motivated. We've got some talented guys on our team as well. And we know we've got a lot of work ahead of us and some really good football teams to play. But so far, they seem to be bought into what we're doing and excited about, teeing it up on Friday and playing.
Yeah. I mean, how did everything work out? Did you feel? I know you kind of use that Jamboree as just a practice run, right? Is that kind of what you guys use it for, just to feel some things out?
Yeah, pretty much. You want to get the little things that happen before a game kind of ironed out. Just, how do you warm up on the field before a game? Kind of what are your pregame routines are going to be, even though in a Jamboree it's a little bit condensed and difficult to do at times. But there's it's good to put the B on the side of the helmet and your game jerseys on for the first time and get those kind of first game jitters out of the way a little bit. And that was the cool thing about a Jamboree, where you have a crowd and you're playing in front of a larger audience than normal. So it was a good experience for the most part.
Yeah, the end of the night was a little bit hectic and a little bit crazy. I'm glad to see everybody. Obviously, it didn't turn up to be any kind of crazy event at the stadium. But what was going through your mind as everybody just sort of, there was a mad scramble there as we've now found out a taser was deployed, and everybody thought, maybe it was a sound of a gun. But I saw Chris Brown directing your players behind Naked River there, the brewing company. So what was going through your mind as all of this craziness was happening on Saturday?
I mean, it was a scary moment for a little bit there when you saw the whole crowd running in one direction. You knew something was going on. Sadly, this has happened to me before, about 3 years ago in Columbia. Similar situation at a Sportsorama. Somebody yells something that gets the whole crowd, alarmed and scared. And so my wife had to shelter our kids for a little while. So it's sad that we're having to deal with it, and I think when you leave a large group of people kind of unattended for a long period of time like that, sometimes you're asking for trouble. But our guys handled it well, and shook up some of the families and the kids, younger kids. But other than that, I think that we handled it about as well as we could have.
Good to hear, because I was one of those that for me, I just clicked on Twitter that night and I just saw, oh no, here comes all this, and of course, early allegations and different things of that nature were popping off on the Twitter sphere. But I was like, I'm going to wait on this one, because I just saw G had posted, like, we don't know exactly what happened. I was like, I'm going to take that for reference first before I do the whole assumption nonsense. So I'm glad everybody's good. It does suck that this is the second time you've had to deal with this, but now coming over from South Carolina, what's been your favorite part about Chattanooga?
Man, I love Chattanooga. I mean, what's not to like about it? My wife and I always wanted to live close to the mountains and a river, and we're doing just that. And I love how close everything is. Like, there's so many wonderful restaurants and breweries and places to hang out. And then you've got the river, and you've got, I can be up on the top of Lookout in 20 minutes, on the top of Signal in 12 minutes. So there's a diverse, set of things to do that I think pretty much anybody could find something that would appeal to what they enjoy. And we haven't had a ton of time yet, but I'm looking forward to digging in even more once we get through football season.
I was going to say, you're probably not going to have much time during the football season to go out and explore and enjoy all the different restaurants and things like that. But is there been anywhere that you've gone so far within the city that you're like, and this is early on, top of the list place that I definitely would come back to?
Yeah, I went to Hello Monty a couple times and really enjoyed that. It's a newer restaurant, and the guy that owns it's actually a South Carolina grad. He went to Macaulay. We'll forgive him for that. But he did go to South Carolina, and I was able to meet him and talk to him. And oh
no.
Oh, sorry. Somebody just tried to call me.
You're good. You're good.
It happens.
Yeah, but no, it's been awesome, and my family's really enjoyed it so far.
Good. Because I'm Hello Monty, like probably my favorite chicken, the Springer's Mountain Chicken.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So good. So you've not gone on the burger quest yet in Chattanooga.
I was going to ask him about that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't. In Columbia, I had a group of friends that were all kind of foodies, and we would do crawls around town. Like, we did a wing crawl one time. We did a burger crawl one time. It was really cool to take a group of guys that you enjoy being around and say, okay, we're going to go hit, about 6 or 7 wing joints in one night. And we had, we're a bunch of nerds. So we have these forms that rate them in different ways. And then at the end, put them all together. And so we did that with burgers one time too, but I have not done that in Chattanooga, but I think that might be something to try to do someday.
Yeah, Coach, as a former fatty and still a fatty at heart, if you ever need somebody to walk around Chattanooga and just try out the best burgers, because underrated burger town, I got to give us that.
Oh, very much so. There's a ton of great burger spots. Yeah, I mean, Chase will give you plenty of good recommendations, and there's a lot of really good spots around here if you are a burger connoisseur like we are.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I've had the jalapeno burger at Tremont Tavern, and that was
you're doing just fine already.
That's good.
I paid for it later, but it was good.
Yeah, that's not one of those like you're just settling in for the night. Like you better be prepared, because it's just gonna be us tonight. Nothing after that jalapeno burger.
All right, so I was kind of curious. You've had a lot of success at Hammond School in South Carolina, and obviously you had Chris Angel there in South Carolina and Columbia as well, and now you have him here at Baylor, and that was probably a big reason why you got an opportunity to come here and coach at Baylor and things like that. But what has been the biggest difference so far from working at the Hammond School in South Carolina, Columbia? I've never been to Columbia. I've never been to the Hammond School, but I've been here in Chattanooga. I've been on the campus of Baylor. It's incredible. It's immaculate, right on that river there. It's awesome. So what are some of the biggest differences between those schools for you?
Well, school-wise, the boarding component at Baylor is much different. We didn't have that at Hammond School. Baylor's a larger operation. It really functions kind of like a small college, which I really enjoy that part of it, getting to know people from all over the globe. The school itself is bigger, and so it's a larger campus, of course, and Hammond's kind of landlocked, and it's a wonderful place and a great school. Baylor's it's different. It's bigger. And it's been really, really cool for me and my family so far.
What do you anticipate some of the challenges being with having a whole team? Well, maybe not all the team that boards. I don't know how many of them stay there.
20% of our team, maybe less.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, because that as some high school kids, that could present a little bit of a challenge with them boarding and living on their own and being away from family and having all the freedoms that a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid has. That's got to be something obviously that you dealt with in college when you were at Carolina, but now you're head coach and it's high school kids. Kind of feels like it might be a little bit difficult sometimes to navigate some of those paths.
Listen, Baylor's been around for a long time, so they've got it figured out. And there's dorm parents and faculty that live in the dorms with them, and they're really well taken care of. It's a very safe environment. It'd be really hard for them to wander off too far and find too much trouble, to be honest with you. So I really don't worry about that a lot. But it is kind of a step between a normal high school experience and a college experience, because you are in a dorm and you do have a roommate. You got to do your own laundry. You got to go to dinner on your own and all those kind of things that you have to navigate in college. You're getting a really good sense of that here at Baylor. So it's a cool environment. But the biggest thing is there's all these kids with different cultures and backgrounds and beliefs coming together, and you're getting to know people from, again, all over the globe. And to have that, I would say, for my kids to be a part of is really kind of cool. It's eye-opening for them. It's very educational.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask too. Is, I mean, as G mentioned, like there's a little difference. I mean, obviously you know this difference for kids that are 15 and kids that are 19, like going to live on their own. You're going to be a little bit more homesick, I think, at a younger age. Like you got a couple guys from Canada. How's that process going for them? I'm sure you guys have built a pretty good family repertoire on the football team, but it's got to be tough to navigate too, right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes those guys do get homesick, and we haven't really dealt with too much of it so far. I mean, when you walk around Baylor, and I told my kids when we were moving, I was like, basically, you're going to live at summer camp, because that's what it feels like. There's just stuff going on all the time. There's a wonderful amount of school spirit here, activities for the kids to do, not just in athletics, but in the arts, around school, academically. There's so much support here. And again, like the kids just love Baylor and they love the school. And so there's a lot of great, just kind of wholesome energy that you feel when you walk around the campus. And my kids it's been tangible for them, and they've enjoyed it so far and feel like they're being welcomed into a large family.
How long did it take you for somebody to try to explain to you or talk to you about what this Baylor-McCall rivalry is like?
I've known about it far. So Baylor's not foreign to me, even though I lived in Columbia. I visited up here probably back in 2005 or 6, because a guy named Herb Barks, who was a longtime headmaster at Baylor, became the headmaster at Hammond. And there's the connection. He ended up bringing a guy named Chris Angel there later, and Chris ended up becoming the headmaster at Hammond. And that was the connection between me and Baylor. But Herb took us up here around that time, and I was like, this place is absolutely incredible. And I didn't know that high schools existed like this in the country.
Same. I had the same thought.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't know that this was a thing. Like I see it in the movies, like on Dead Poets Society, but I didn't realize it was a real life thing. So, or if it did, it was like in the New England area or something like that. Yeah. And so I was like, man, that place is absolutely incredible. And there are a number of people at Hammond that worked at Baylor and came to Hammond. And so there was a connection there. And we kind of always knew, because of who Chris Angel is, the type of leader of people and young people he is, that one day he would get an opportunity to go back home and coach or be the headmaster here at Baylor. And so in the back of my head, I kind of always thought, maybe one day. And to me, at Hammond, I had some success, and I've told the story a few times. I kind of said my only 2 dream jobs would be to leave Hammond to coach at the University of South Carolina, where I played and I love, or to go to Baylor and coach for Chris Angel if he was the headmaster there. Well, lo and behold, Baylor calls Chris, and Chris leaves to go to Baylor. And then just a few months later, USC called me, and I went to do that. And then had no idea that, just a year later, the job at Baylor would be coming open. I talked to Chris maybe 2 or 3 times during the season, just like, how's your family doing? And then I got a text that the job was open, and I knew right then and there I was going to have to make a really tough decision.
Mm-hmm. That is a tough call. I mean, I do want to ask, was like, because going to South Carolina as a player, was that like because you were a walk-on?
Yeah, I walked on. I ended up earning a scholarship, but yes, I walked
That's
on.
right. Yeah, I knew you wound up earning the scholarship, but like, is that just like a home dream state? You wanted to go no matter what. Whoever recruited you, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it was always a dream. So I'm a third generation Gamecock. My grandmother
Ah,
went there. We lived in Columbia my whole life. I grew up going to South Carolina games. I was at the game in 1992 when Hank Campbell stuffed Tennessee going for a 2-point conversion, and we beat them on Halloween Day, and they fired Johnny Majors the next day.
yeah.
I was like 13, maybe 12 years old.
Yeah, I
So
can't hear you anymore, Coach. We're gonna have to
Yeah,
cut this
losing
out.
connection. I don't.
No, so I was a lifelong Gamecock fan, and so for Shane Beamer to call me and offer me the job to coach tight ends was absolutely a dream job. And I really enjoyed the year and learned so much from him and everybody on staff, and it really made me a better coach. But when Mr. Angel called about the Baylor job, it was to me there was something that resonated there about kind of who I was and what my
Mhm.
family do. And I really enjoy working with this age group of kid. I love just high school football overall and what it allows young people to experience and learn. And then I think a fresh challenge of coming here and moving my family away is good for us. And I mean, just if you walk around this place, you kind of get it. And if you understood my relationship with Mr. Angel, I think you'd get it even further.
That's always cool to like work with. Probably it sounds like one of your best friends, if not your best friend.
No question.
It's a dream. Yeah. I will to circle back on the Baylor thing. So I've lived in Chattanooga for a while now, but I grew up down the road in Ray County, and I just never went up to Baylor. I went up there one or two times maybe just for a test, and we went up there for a camp, but that was younger. I didn't really think about it. And then now my now girlfriend went there, and
Hannah went to Baylor?
yeah, she was a
Oh, no
Baylor
kidding.
grad. Oh yeah, yeah. And
Nice.
so I never realized the perks, like the long-term perks that you can go like anytime I mean, the campus is just unbelievable. Like you were talking about, where we go over to the practice field. I had COVID over Christmas, so I was just by myself. So we were distanced out, and she was like, "Hey, let's just go to the fields." And it was like a 75-degree Christmas this year, so we could just like go outside, and we were just like hanging out there on the practice field and like throw a ball with my dog. And she's like, "Yeah, this is our language building." And I was like, "Language building? You gotta be kidding me, man. This is like, I mean, we had a language trailer at Ray County." So it's I can see how it's not a hard sell for you to get here as long as one of your best friends is here.
Yeah, and I mean, 130 years. This is our 130th year as a school. So there's so much history and tradition here, and not
Mhm.
just the perks of being able to be on campus, which is unbelievable right here on the Tennessee River, but also the network of people that are very proud Baylor alums. And there's a lot of people in this city and throughout this country that, are Baylor people at heart. And I've got to meet a lot of them in the last 6 months. And for my children to have access to that network and that community and family of people to get to know them is something that it's hard to put any kind of price tag on something like that.
Absolutely. And just kind of going back to your time at the Hammond School, just really quick, what do you think led to you being able to have so much success there? I mean, it was 194 wins and 20 losses. And I know it's more about the wins and losses and the state championships and things like that. But what do you think led to you being so successful there? Was there anything in particular that you can kind of point back to, or maybe you don't want to share a secret? I don't know.
No, I think culture is the most important thing. There's a difference between changing a climate and changing a culture. And we were able to kind of instill a culture early on at Hammond. And really, sometimes you get that initial break or two. And like for us, our third year there is when we won the first championship. And we were playing our rival who we hadn't beaten in a long time. And honestly, we were a lot better than they were that year. But they kind of had those mental demons, so to speak. And we stumbled into beating them in spite of ourselves. And we went on a run that year, and we won the championship. The next year, we find ourselves back in the championship and beat a team that kind of, in a way, really kind of fumbled the game away late, and we were able to take advantage of it. And they were better than we were. And before you know it, we're back-to-back state champs. And then something starts to build. And I think, I don't know if you've ever heard of a Pareto distribution before, but it's like it's kind of the power of exponentials. It's like fundamentally when it's the old like success breeds success, or like the Matthew principle of to whom much is given, more will be given. And so I think when those things start to build, if you're careful with the type of, I don't want to call it power, but the culture that you're building, and you make sure that you minister to it well, and you make sure it's growing and it doesn't become, toxic because of your own success. Aristotle said many a victory has been or will be suicidal to the victors. And that's something that every year I wrote on the board when we were done. And I just said, what are we doing wrong? How can we do something better? How can I evolve as a coach? How can we get better? Try not to let that success go to your head, and just keep digging. And what I say, struggling well, to find a way to improve yourself personally, but also your culture and your team. And I think that when you start to have success and you're able to surround yourself with people that are like-minded, and then things start to take care of themselves. You almost have a self-governing system that can, weed out some of the unhealthy components of a team sport and draw in more attractive components, and then you have a guy like Jordan Birch knock on your door, who is coming to play basketball and football because a guy named Sevith Woods had a good experience playing basketball there. And before you know it, you got 2 All-Americans at little old Hammond School in Columbia, South Carolina. And so, really, it's something that you fight for, but I think sometimes you stumble into it. And I think that the one thing I was proud of what we did is I feel like we handled that success well and continue to try to grow through that whole process.
Yeah. You guys did a great job of that. And you know what? I totally forgot Seventh Woods went there. I'm also not a partial Carolina fan.
You are a Carolina
I'm a Carolina fan. It's a
basketball.
No, I do. I do watch both.
You talking about Chapel Hill?
Yeah.
That's not Carolina. That's just Chapel Hill.
Oh, sorry.
I think we took one of y'all's big recruits, if I'm not mistaken. So.
You sure did.
Oh.
You sure did. You got snagged one away from him. I don't appreciate that.
Lamont Paris needs all the help he can get. Unless you're talking football, I don't know what you're talking about. You're talking football or basketball?
I'm talking about basketball.
Okay, Lamont Paris. Yes, man, we love Lamont Paris around here. You probably don't, Chase, because you're an ETSU grad. But
hey, I liked Lamont. He's a good dude.
He is a good guy.
He's a good dude. He was such a good guy.
Well, he just got a time recruit, so we're excited at South Carolina.
Yeah. As a Tennessee fan, and also in recruiting in that area, I was a little worried about Lamont getting over there. He's got that young, cool guy vibe, and I was like, dadgummit, that SOB is going to steal some people away. Yeah, so he's good. I will say, when you talk about the breeding success here, I mean, those kids are in a good spot, because you even touched on it, like the network they're going to have here. There's so many successful people and just good people that have came out of Baylor and that love Baylor. I guess moving back to Chattanooga in my later life, I learned that, and you gotta have a good one from September 30th, that Macaulay rivalry, because I had no idea how big it was until I started going to these things. So you're gonna have some fun on that day, because it gets a little dicey. Are you gonna be a part of? I don't know if you've seen these already. The music video. Are you gonna be a part of said music video come rivalry time?
No, I don't think so. I'm not doing a music video. Our players aren't doing a music video, so I'm not worried about it. Listen, I'm excited to be a part of a very historic rivalry. Clearly, Macaulay's set the standard the last few years of winning championships in this league. To me, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to win a championship. And I know that this rivalry is incredibly important to people in this town and to both communities. And I think it's a great celebration of 2 wonderful institutions that have changed the lives of so many kids and impacted this community in a positive way. So I'm excited about being a part of that. But fundamentally, we got to keep our guys understanding that this is a long season. Like, we're worried about Friday night we play Raven Gap, right? And it's a long season, and the goal of the season is to win a state championship. And we need to keep that in mind, and at the same time enjoy the fact that we get the privilege to be a part of such a good rivalry.
All right, well, I have some fun questions that I want to get to. Chase said he's got some good questions as well, but I wanted to ask this one before we move into some of these more off-the-cuff fun questions. Tell us a little bit about your team that you have this year, and tell us specifically, I want to know about Whit Muschamp. I didn't realize that Will Muschamp's son went to Baylor until I took a picture or video of him completing a past year tight end, number 88. I don't remember what his name is at this point. Yeah. And he retweeted it. I was like, wait, why is Will Muschamp retweeting this video? Then I realized it was his son who made the pass. But what has it been like to work with him? How has his progression come along since you've gotten an opportunity to be here and get your hands on him and help coach him?
Yeah, well, you may not know this, but Whit was my quarterback 2 years ago at Hammond.
What?
So, yeah,
I had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah, so Coach Muschamp, of course, was the head coach at South Carolina, and both of his boys, Jackson and Whit, went to Hammond. And Jackson was my starting quarterback for 2 years and is a walk-on quarterback at Georgia now. Had a couple Division I offers, but decided he wanted to go to Georgia where his dad went to school. And Whit came in midway through his freshman year to be our starter at Hammond and led us to 7 straight wins and a state championship as a freshman. So when the news broke that I was coming to Baylor, I'll promise you this, I was coming down I-20. We just passed Augusta, and I get a text from Coach Muschamp saying, "Hey, do you need a quarterback?" So I was like, man, I know how good Whit is, so sure, bring him on. And they came up and visited in the spring, and they loved it. And so Whit's a boarder here. He's done a beautiful job of winning the starting quarterback position from a really good quarterback named Hughes Picard that came in 2 years ago and really pushed him. And Hughes is good enough to play. So I feel like I've got 2 good quarterbacks. But Whit's just got the most ideal personality for a quarterback. You know, like it's just everything kind of brushes off of his back. And if he makes a mistake, he's good and he stays in the moment. He clearly understands the game at a high level because he's lived in the game his whole life. But he's done a beautiful job. He's got some really good targets to give the ball to. You know, probably start with Caleb Hampton, our running back. To me, who is a Power 5 running back in my opinion. And I've had other Power 5 running back coaches tell me that he's just been so good at baseball. He hasn't pursued the football side of it as much. But I mean, the guy ran a 6.5 60, which translates into probably a high 4.4 to a 4.6, depending on your start, 40. He's over 200 pounds. He looks like an SEC running back. And yeah, he runs north and south, and what a wonderful human being he is too. And so he's a guy that you can start off with right away. Bryson Sanders, our tackle that's committed to Ole Miss, 6'6", 290, 285. Tony Boggs is playing a little offense for us, but he's a defensive tackle who's committed to Duke. And Rhett Johnson's a senior that played last year. They'll play a center for us. So you know, we're excited about some of those guys. And on the perimeter, Amari Jefferson that Georgia and Tennessee just recently offered. He's committed to Tennessee in baseball, but he's a really, really good football player too. He's going to have a lot of options. Cam Sparks, who's a guy that's playing defense and offense for us. He's got a Georgia, he's got a Tennessee among some other offers. Cam's 6'4", 210. He's a sophomore, so he's got a long ways to go. And then Dalton Restelli, who you saw the other day, is a 6'4", 235-pound tight end. He's played receiver.
Big boy.
Yeah, put on 25 pounds, and he can run. Dalton tore his ACL last year, but and only got it in 3 games, or you have more film. Dalton, in my opinion, is a Division I tight end. And so I know that Whit's excited. We've got some other guys that, you know, we can mix in. Evan Haney, who's committed to Princeton, playing free corner for us. Louis Vincent, who's another really nice target out there. Zane Restelli, Dalton's little brother, is going to help us out there too. And Max LeBlanc, a guy that just came in from Canada, is another 6'4" target, is doing some nice things for us. So we're still learning, and man, we're doing, you know, times on offense where I'm scratching my head, but overall, you know, I feel like we got a chance to be, you know, effective on offense as we mature.
Because it sounds like he's got just a little bit of sauce to throw too. I think he's gonna be okay. How have the boys adjusted as far as, I'm sure you've changed up the system a little bit. I'm not sure exactly what Coach ran previously, but I don't know how much different, I mean, your systems are compared to their previous ones. How are they handling the changeover for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a learning curve. And I think the easy thing to do is to hand kids a playbook and say, here's the plays, memorize them. I don't do it that way. I teach it more like you're learning a language, and we have to learn how to speak it together. And that way, when we get into a game, we can solve problems together. And we can even ad-lib a little bit together to way, hey, if they do this, we can do it this way, right? Yeah, okay, because I've learned how to speak the language and how the routes translate in different ways. It's hard to really articulate it unless you're kind of in it, but they've done a really nice job of learning it. I've thrown a lot at them, and right now what I'm trying to do is really just pull things kind of a little tighter this week as we get started, and we still are working through things like communication issues and other issues that pop up when you've only been doing something for a month.
All right. Well, talk to us before I don't know if you have any more questions about the team in general, but just I want to give you an opportunity to give some love to your staff, because I know you can't do it alone, and I know your good buddy Chris Brown, who you brought over from Red Bank to be your defensive coordinator, and I just could see the relationship that you guys have cultivated in a short amount of time, just from being there at the Jamboree, and how you guys work together, and in between games, you guys were talking, communicating, and things like that. But, not only Chris Brown, but the rest of your staff wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of brag on him a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got some guys on defense too that I'm excited about. Marcio Collins, another D tackle that's got a Georgia State offer. John Emmendorfer, who's a baseball player playing outside linebacker for us. Josh Hampton, Caleb's little brother, who's playing safety for us. So those guys got some decent players in their hands too. But Chris is didn't know Chris before, but as I was doing research to hire a defensive coordinator, to me, having someone with local knowledge that even had head coaching experience was something that I valued. And so I kind of internet stalked him a little bit. He admitted that he internet stalked me a little bit. We talked on the phone a couple times as I was talking to a few people about their interest level, and just we wanted to know, hey, would you be willing to come be a coordinator here? And he said, I'm interested. Let's talk. I drove up to Chattanooga one weekend, and we went to dinner, and I knew within about 2 minutes, I was like, this is the kind of guy I want in my program. Of course, he's got a great reputation about what kind of head coach he was and what kind of defenses he ran in the past. But the biggest thing is I couldn't find anybody say anything bad about the guy. And I tried. So I think he's just well respected in this community because of the type of human being he is. And he was able to bring some guys with him, community coaches. Chris Payne, who's helping us on our defensive line, and Charles Weems, who's helping us in our secondary. And along with a guy like Eric Westmoreland, who, longtime Baylor assistant, played in the NFL, played at Tennessee, who's been awesome, who's been here for a long time and transitioned, really just so gracious in the transition and embraced Chris and what he's trying to do on defense, and Julian Kaufman, who's been doing that as well in the secondary. And then I hired a guy named Josh Willoughby that played at Middle Tennessee State. And he was over in Germany and Hungary coaching in their professional leagues, and wanted to come back to the States if he could get an opportunity like Baylor. And he was friends with Gary Sanders, Bryson Sanders' dad, and he's coaching our O-line and just done a tremendous job. And Kaz D'Amadio, who's been here for forever, he's a Chattanooga legend around here. Is coaching the receivers again, and he has such a great knowledge of those guys outside. So I feel like we've got a wonderful staff, not just of coaches, but great human beings that care about young people and their development.
That's awesome.
Good stuff, man.
You got everything else on the team? Or you want to get into some more off the cuff fun questions?
Let's go off the cuff.
All right, let's
I'm
transition.
glad to hear you do have a really good staff, and
Yeah,
that local knowledge will help a little bit here and there. I think
every once in a while.
Yeah, it'll dabble in.
All right, so I'll let you go first. What do you got?
All right, Coach. I'm going to let you choose. Do you want story? Would you like to give a story time, or would you like to get a little Baylor trivia?
I will go story time.
All right. So is it correct that I read correctly that who is the coach you played under at South Carolina?
Lou Holtz.
Yes. I do have to know, do you have a really good Lou Holtz story?
Oh, yeah. I've got plenty of them. And I got a little bit of an impersonation I can do as well, too. So,
beautiful.
Sign me up, baby.
Yeah. All right. Let me see. Which one do I want to tell? Something I've got to dial back a little bit. But
I mean, you can tell multiple. This is unfiltered here. We can swear. We can do whatever we want. So you want to tell any sort of story you want to tell, go ahead.
My first year there, we won our first game, and we lost the next 10 games in a row. And Brad Scott, the former Florida State offensive coordinator, was our head coach. His son, Jeff Scott, longtime assistant coach at Clemson, is now the head coach at South Florida, okay? Brad's a great guy. I always loved Brad. We had a rough year that year. and they fired Brad at the end of the year, and they bring in Lou Holtz. Okay, legendary coach, national championship coach. Well, we lose 13 offensive linemen in the first year, right? And we're 0-9. We just lose to Vanderbilt because we missed an extra point, and we got to play Florida and Clemson left, who are both in the top 10. So Coach Holtz walks into the locker room after that game. Very evident we're probably going to go 0-11, and he goes, "Hey guys, I got one thing to tell you. Brad Scott deserves a trophy this damn big for winning one game with your sorry asses." And then he walks out of the room.
That was an excellent impersonation.
That was really solid.
Wow. That was really good.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't know how much faith I had in the impersonation, but that was fantastic.
Yeah, that was really good.
Coach he was a witty guy. He was really smart. I remember one day we're at practice, and it was a windy day. And if you know Coach Holtz, he's like 5'7", maybe 145 pounds, soaking wet, And a couple of the linemen went up to him and said, "Hey, Coach, you better be careful. That's just wind might blow you away." And he didn't miss a beat. He goes, "Oh, no, I got my wallet in my back pocket."
Oh, what a fun dude.
That's awesome.
Fun dude. You have anything else along those lines?
No, I was really just wondering what about the Lou story. And I'm sure you had some in your back pocket. And I just wanted to check on that because Lou's an interesting character. But yeah, I've only seen him one time. And it was on a set. I don't remember where that was. He was in Knoxville for something. And I didn't realize he's a pretty small guy. Like, I just assumed football coach would be a little bit bigger, but just small guy, but huge personality.
Oh, unbelievable. I learned so much from him, playing for him. And his son, Skip, who I'm still close with, just saw him a week ago. And Skip's like 6'3", and he was the head coach at La Tech for a long time. Just coached Birmingham in this league this past fall, and they won the championship. This past spring. And so he's doing really, really well, and a guy that's had a huge influence on my life.
All right, let's go stick with your playing career here. I'll stay with that theme, Chase, on this one. But what was the funniest thing or the craziest trash talk that you ever heard while you were playing football?
Man, the craziest trash. Well, Fred Smoot was a corner when we played Mississippi State. That was a big. They called him I forgot, Smoot Smack or something like that. And he was a great trash talker all the time. I think trash talking is just kind of a part of football a little bit. What's funny is I have 2 girls, and then my youngest is a boy. And so he likes to get in that a little bit. He'll start razzing people as he's playing basketball, whatever. And my wife doesn't know what to do with that. She's like, "Eric, you got to stop this behavior right away." I'm like, "Erica, you got to understand, this is just kind of how guys tell each other they love each other. They punch each other.
Yeah.
And they insult each other. And I'm sorry that we're so unsophisticated, but that's the truth." So, no one really pops out to me except some of our opponents. I'll say this. I remember we're warming up for Florida. We're playing in the Swamp, and me and our starter, Phil Petty, are throwing the ball before, we're the first ones out. And there's 100 people in the stands right now. They're all drinking outside. And so there's this guy up on the top row of the Swamp, and he's going, "Hey, Phil Petty, Alex Brown's going to make you his," and just let him have it. But anyway, the fans were the ones that were the best. The Vanderbilt fans were the worst, but they had the most creative insults, if I remember.
Okay, that was another part of the question I was going to ask of, what is the craziest insult that you've ever heard from a fan, whether it's being while you played or you coached?
Yeah, the Vanderbilt fans were the best because they couldn't pull for their team. So they pulled for saying witty things like, "Hey, we're smart. Vanderbilt, we can insult you." So one of my friends, when he was playing, had a receding hairline and a beard, and this guy screams out "Hey, number 65, did you bring your grandkids with the game?" We had another kid that was a track player. He was 5'4", but he could run a 10-200. And one of the Vandy guys goes, "Hey, number 86, did you win a contest to dress out with a team?" Just stuff like that all the time. Now, if you go to Florida or LSU, they'll just throw batteries at you on the sideline. So a little less sophisticated, but effective.
So there was nothing that you was ever funnily directed at you.
Not really. It's so loud you can't really hear it all. I know at Clemson, they have that hill at Clemson, and our kickers would be kicking extra points out there, and the students would grab the balls and try to throw them back at you. I think one of them hit me in the shoulder pad one time. It didn't hurt at all, but
That's right.
things like that all the time.
Yeah, I do want to ask. And now be very honest with me. In today's,
He wouldn't lie to us.
I hope not. He might on this one. And you know what? We'll kind of put this like in the last 15 to 20 year perspective. Is South Carolina a Gamecock state or a Clemson Tiger state?
Well, I mean, the University of South Carolina is clearly the state university. So
Yep.
it's clearly a Gamecock state. Clemson's this thing that happens up in the hill, like
Okay.
they kind of exist in their own area. And listen, I give them mad props. They got a great program, right? But no, I think it's definitely South Carolina State.
Yeah, because I always wondered. I mean, it's weird because obviously nationally they're going to get the attention, especially the last 8-10 years. Inside the state, it's a little different. Like Tennessee was pretty bad. Vanderbilt got us, but it's not like it's their state, like really. So I was kind of thinking it might have been similar to a different extent, but
It's not like that. Clemson's had a really good football program.
yeah, exactly. Like saying, yeah. No.
Listen, there's diehard Clemson fans, and they should be proud of their university because they've won 3 national championships, and so listen, we got to hear it as Gamecocks, and we're tired of hearing it, but got to do something about it. And right now they've got a great program that but hopefully it only makes you better. It raises your game, and now with the uncertainty of the future of college football, you just have no idea what it's going to look like in 4 or 5 years. I mean, is Clemson even in the ACC anymore? If they're in the ACC, do they win those national championships? Is there a playoff, and how many teams? Does that give it a school like a South Carolina, like a Ole Miss, like a whoever, a chance to move up and be a little bit more competitive right now? So it's hard to tell what it'll look like in 15 to 20 years.
Yeah. Hey, well, don't sell the women's college basketball team short. They are mighty good.
Yeah.
Really good. Don Staley is probably the best women's coach in the cosmos, right? And we've been.
Oriana's pretty good.
No, I think she's better. At least right now.
I'm from Connecticut, so I always have love for Gino and the Huskies. But we kind of blew right past this, but I feel like I have to ask. Erik and Erica.
Yeah.
That is that's kind of wild. Is that was that something that was a little strange at the first, time you guys started dating or anything like that?
We're high school sweethearts, and so it just happened. And I knew I was going to be a man with limited options, and so I just said,
Stop that.
Let's hang on to this one and see what happens. But no, she's actually, my wife is a Knoxville native. Moved to Columbia when we were 15 years old. I met her then. We started dating when we were 16, and we've been together ever since. But no, not something you plan, but it is easy to remember our names.
That's very true. You're not going to forget your wife's name.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be a few times you've probably been like flagged. They're like, if you travel out of country, they're like, really? You guys gonna try this one?
Erik and Erica.
No, just shake your head and say, hey, sorry.
Yeah, that's us.
Yep.
So I want to ask real quick. I mean, I know it's so new and you're just here, but how, if maybe not even you particularly, like how is I gotta ask, how's the NIL affected you at all recruiting wise? Like, are your players talking about it? Like, is it even there on the recruiting part of it yet? I mean, how does that affect like coaches and, guys in your field right now?
So from the high school field?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's something you need to talk about. I wouldn't be a good high school coach if, we got some kids that are going to have some opportunities.
Yeah.
And I'm having navigated it from the other side of things, it's certainly given me a perspective to navigate it from this side of things. But if you're a young man, and there's an unbelievable opportunity for you to change the trajectory of your life, assuming you don't go to the NFL. And so I think that's an important part of recruitment on a certain level. I think that's more of a Power 5 kind of conversation for the most part. But also, the transfer portal is another issue that you got to talk to your kids about, because a lot of these schools aren't going to sign as many high school guys because they know they can go get 5 to 10 guys in the portal. So offers from group of 5 type schools or schools that are SEC, maybe non-annual powers, are really valuable. And you better consider locking one of those spots up early or you may get left. So I think it's a conversation that high school coaches should be helping their kids navigate. But the best thing that they can do is be the best teammate they can possibly be and enjoy high school football as long as they can, because it does change a little bit when you get on the next level. And honestly, that's what's going to help you get all the things that you want anyway. But it is a reality that we need to be in conversation with our players.
Yeah, because I know it's tough to navigate. I mean, looking ahead, I mean, also, I guess that's a perfect example of you coming from the college side just so recently and seeing the wild, wild west that is the NIL. What is going to be in place like in the college realm? Is there going to be some like financial literacy classes more so with this coming about, or how are they doing that on that side?
Well, nobody knows right now. And I think what happened is a lot of probably well-intentioned people passed some legislation, not realizing the can of worms that they had just opened. And now that we are, like, literally every coach you talk to, it's the wild, wild west, right? And I think that, I'm not anti-NIL. I think that if we had the adults sit down at the table and come up with a common sense approach to it, that not only is in the best interest of the student athlete, but in the best interest of that 25-year-old student athlete, 7 years from now, to where you can incentivize loyalty, staying out of school as much as possible, and education. I mean, how much has college sports given to young people that wouldn't have got a college education before? And so imagine if you went to a Power 5 school, and let's just say you got, I'm just using numbers, 50 grand the first year, and it went up to 75, and then it went up to 100 and 150, and then you got 100 for graduating. And now you're debt free with $400,000 something in your bank account, and you're 22 years old. That's life changing, right?
Yeah.
Put a lot of that in a trust to where you don't get it until you're a little later, right? You might get enough. Like, how much is enough to live on in college? Y'all went to college, right? Like, I didn't need much,
No.
And these guys, right, they don't have any bills. Everything's paid for. Their food's paid for. Their clothes are paid for. Everything's paid for. And they already get a stipend to live off of. So take this money, put it in a trust, have the university hire people that they trust to guide these kids financially in the future when they're in a better position to make decisions like that. You don't give a 14-year-old a brand new car, or a 15-year-old that just got their permit, a brand new car, say, hey, here's a $75,000 car, go drive it. You say, wait a minute. There's a process here before we get there. And I think that that process is not in place. I'd love to see something like that come to fruition that's not completely insane, where you're thinking, oh, wow, this kid's getting $2 million, but also it's in the kid's long-term best interest.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because, I mean, like, to Spencer Rattler's point, I mean, he got a couple free cars and then leaves Oklahoma. I mean, then you do this, and it's because these guys and, these girls, whoever, are offering so much free money, and they have money to spend. These lawyers that are down in Miami giving 4-star recruits, what, $9 million, what that one came out to be. It's like, what are you going to do? How do you navigate that? That's I do like. I've always liked the trust factor, and then also giving them some sort of like base, because, dude, how we could live off nothing in college.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like $100 would last me a month.
Oh, so long.
It was great.
But it's borderline irresponsible to give an 18-year-old $1 million.
Absolutely. 100%.
I mean, listen, put it in a bank account. Okay, they earned it. I'm all for it. But that's what I'm saying, just some common sense approaches that's in the interest of the student athlete. Now, on top of that, when you talk about college football and its future, because what is happening right now is not sustainable, and it's just going to be the rich get richer, right? And whoever wants to buy the best team is going to buy the best team. There's no salary cap, and a lot of schools that can't compete in those arenas against those schools with those types of cash flows. Your Texas and Texas A&Ms are going to rise to the top really quickly because of how well they're funded. Schools that have those bank rolls are going to be able to buy their way back to the top. And listen, like, I get it. That's where it is right now. But I think we all know, kind of down deep in our soul, there's something that doesn't like resonate well with us when we talk about it that way. We kind of still we love the part of college football that's like about your school and pride and each other, that you walk the hallways with the same guy that is, on the football field, that he graduated from Tennessee or South Carolina or Georgia. And he wasn't just a hired gun. There was a shared experience that made people, I don't know, there was a level of pride that we loved about college football. And now I think that the fact that it's become more of a professional sport, we've gained something, but I think we've lost a little something too.
Yeah.
Do you have any more serious questions? Because we just went from like silly and fun to like serious and money. And I've just got some fun questions left. But if you have anything else serious to get into,
no more serious questions. That's all. I just wanted to. I had to know an opinion on somebody.
No, I loved it. That was a great question. I loved that. That's why I just let you roll with it, because I was like, I've got some fun ones, but I didn't have anything serious like that. So I'm gonna let you take that. But all right, Coach, I'm gonna put this on you here. You got an opportunity to coach in the SEC for a little while, and obviously you played in the SEC for a while as well at South Carolina. What was it like to coach in the SEC? Was it everything that you thought it would be and more? And, do you have any funny interactions with any of the notable SEC college head football coaches currently?
No, I loved it. It was a great experience, very enriching. Like I said, first of all, just to learn from a guy like Shane Beamer, who is really in tune to building a culture. And the way that he commanded the room and the way that he treated everyone around him goes to show you that you can do things and be a good person. You don't have to be that kind of stereotypical hard ass to do things. But, I just learned so much watching him and other coaches there. Learned so much offense last year. Marcus Satterfield, is a guy that just has an encyclopedic knowledge of offense. And so that was fun for me. I kind of fell in love with the X's and O's of football again too. But no, it was cool to meet different coaches. Spent some time with Mac Brown at the bowl game. We're talking about the very thing we were just talking about, the future of NIL and do we need a commissioner and the NCAA and stuff like that. Seeing other coaches that I had known before in the past across the sideline, and then just watching how these guys, essentially guide their teams and how that translates schematically sometimes. It was a great experience for me. It's a year I'll always be grateful for, and certainly has made me a better coach and a better human.
Beautiful. You got the chatted up?
No, I've got two more questions before we get to the chatted up question.
Oh, okay.
So another one would be, as a player, what was your favorite play to run as a quarterback?
I think everybody probably knows it was the fade. So the guy, and if you're a South Carolina fan, they know what I'm talking about. But when I was in high school, I called all the plays at the line of scrimmage, and sometimes people would bring blitzes, and I'd just have to throw the ball up pretty quickly and try to time that up. So I love those big 3-ball fades. Was my favorite route to throw.
Your infamous fade was against Mississippi State, right?
Yes.
That's what it was.
There you go.
Good, baby.
Good memory. All right, last one before we get to our infamous chatted up chat pack question. What's one aspect of playing the quarterback position you feel like you'd still be able to be pretty good at today if you were to go out there and play still?
I think seeing defenses and knowing where to throw the ball. Listen, football is a simple game when it comes down to it. It's about numbers, angles, and green grass. That really is what it's about. And I think the instinctive quarterbacks can see those things. Hey, I've got numbers over here. I've got some leverage or grass over here. I've got an angle here. So I think I was good at that part of it. I didn't have the arm strength or the athleticism of some of the guys that played over me. That's why they played over me. But I think I could still go out there and cut some people up in 7-on-7.
There we go.
Yeah,
I like
baby.
that. All right, good. I love the confidence. All right. Now it is not the right music. There it is.
There it is.
Still learning the sound pad. All right. Here's our chatted up chat pack question. We ask a thought-provoking question to each other, our guests, whatever it may be. It's just to end the show. And here's our one today. I thought this would be a good one to ask you, Coach, and we'll answer it as well. If you create a top 3 list of your all-time favorite teachers, instructors, or coaches, which 3 mentors would make your elite list?
3 personal mentors or mentors that I've studied and read?
Either or.
All right. Well, I'll give you the ones I've probably studied and read. I don't know.
Okay.
I taught a philosophy class for years. So, so I love to not model, but learn from coaches that kind of think a little bit more philosophically. So I'd say Phil Jackson, John Wooden, and Pete Carroll are 3 guys that have influenced me from just a coaching perspective. And then I'd say personally, my dad, probably number one. He was a high school coach, and it still kind of coaches me to this day. Heck, I just added him to our Huddle account so he can start breaking down film for me.
I love it.
Yeah, I think Skip Holtz is number two. The relationship that we had in college when he was my quarterback coach. And I think from a colleague standpoint, Jeff Barnes would probably be number three. Jeff was my longtime O-line coach at Hammond's, the AD there. And just the brotherhood we built working together was something that just really shaped me.
Awesome. That's a great list. What about you, Chase?
Let's see here. Personally,
I mean, if you're still thinking, I know who my three would be.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll take mine first. First and foremost, my dad, as you mentioned, coach, is he's always somebody that mentored me, and you know, I coach now I've coached for a while baseball wise, and he's somebody who influenced me just on the fundamentals of the game of baseball and having good sportsmanship and what it means to be a good teammate in general in baseball, basketball, or my two main sports. And I've carried that through not only on the field, whether it was me playing, me coaching, but in life as well. So he's always at the top of the list, as you mentioned. A guy named Joe Iannucci was another one of mine who was basically my baseball mentor. My dad laid the foundation. He was the guy that, you know, taught me all the fundamentals as we just kind of went into. But Joe Iannucci was the guy who kind of took my baseball game from being very average to a little above average and good enough to play D3 baseball. And I was always been very grateful for him for that. And he's the one who really got me and gave me an opportunity to get into coaching baseball and really give me the confidence that I needed to coach baseball and still teach a lot of the things that he taught me. And I've been able to pass it on to kids that I teach. So I'm really grateful to him for that. And then another guy that I would single out is Tim Kluke, is a guy who was our academic advisor at SUNY Plattsburgh. And, you know, getting into radio and things like that, he was a big help with learning a lot of the things that go into radio and hosting a show and a podcast and how to be professional on the air. So I think that would be my three, Chase.
Okay, that's a good one.
Nice.
Number one, absolutely, is Grandpa. My grandpa was like, he was mayor, vice mayor of Dayton forever. Just a man that carried himself, fought in World War II. Like, the man is literally in hospice care and in the bed, and me and my little brother walk in the room. This was like, I don't know, 8-10 years ago. I was in great shape, you know, had the six pack. I thought I was tough, but I walked in that, and that man is on his deathbed. And we know the man has killed a few guys in his life. We're like, I think he can still take me. It's like, he's always been that. He's a really quiet man, because he's actually my step granddad.
Mm-hmm.
I just never knew my biological granddad. He'd passed away before I was even born, before I was even thought of. So he came in as my granddad. And so, like, Pa always had this really good way of carrying himself, and just taught little valuable lessons like, hey, you know, it is okay to be like a good one we had recently. Just, it's okay to be sad, but you do need to carry yourself in a way, because you're a leader in this family, or you're a leader in this community, or you have this persona. You can be sad, you can talk about it, but you have to still carry yourself strong. It's like little things like that. All these little lessons have always been a part of me. He taught me how to drive, do all that stuff. And number two, it's a tough one. This is actually going to be a small collective group, and it was all my dad, but mostly as all of my dad's friends. And they called themselves the choir group. They met on my porch every Saturday at like 6 a.m. To get away from, you know, their home life. And they would come on my dad's porch every Saturday, and they would drink beer at like 6 o'clock in the morning until like 9. And it was just it was a group of like actually well-known guys around my town. It was just a blast. But that group was the one that taught me, as you mentioned earlier, us bunch of Neanderthal men, we have to like bullshit and talk, you know, and you have to be able to take it. And it's just the way we communicate. So like seeing that group, dad, all his buddies, the choir group was the one that taught me so much, like just how to be a guy, take it, you know, take your lumps, take your trash talk. Cause if I had a game in basketball I had quite a few, I had to walk out on Saturday morning and just take my lumps and go through it. And then as far as like,
who would the third one be?
I was actually thinking about this. So this one's kind of off the wall, but thank goodness for this era now. You can learn from so many like business people, thanks to social media, thanks to books, and a way of speaking, sales, different things like that. Actually, a guy named Alex Hormozy. He's actually our age. Somebody I've recently found. He's come out. He's a $100 million guy. He's gone through the ringer, but the way he speaks and his actions and how he's promoted himself, and like he's done a good job on his podcast and gone here, just a very insightful man. Like best friends, a philosopher. So just taking little things from each person. And I think today's world's been so good because like you said, you can find these mentors throughout the world, whether it's books, whether it's video, whether it's podcasts. It's just beautiful to have nowadays. So those are my big three.
Very nice. That's a terrific list. Well, that's going to end it here for the podcast. It's been great having you on. It was great meeting you at the Jamboree this past weekend. Look forward to getting out to some Baylor games this year. We'll be at Baylor McCallie for sure. And we'll definitely be having you on our brand new high school football review and preview show sometime on a Tuesday or a Thursday to either recap what happened the week before, preview what's coming up this week. Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time, working through us with the technical difficulty you had early on in the show, and just being here and hanging with us for an hour. It was awesome.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, guys. We'll do it again soon, and good luck the rest of the fall, and I'll see you down the road.
Sounds
Yes,
good.
sir. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thanks.